Well, this lecture discusses the conditional statements in Java. Java has the conditional, the looping constructs. The conditional constructs are the if else, if ladder, and switch statements. So within a method, we can alter the flow of control, the order in which the statements are executed using either conditions or loops. The conditional statements if else and switch allow us to choose which statement will be executed next, and we can say that without the help of conditional constructs we cannot have a programming language in its entirety. So conditional statements are very, very important as far as any language is concerned, and it is also very important in Java, like which we will see in this discussion. Now the if statement. Suppose we have to find out whether a Boolean expression holds. Then in that case, whenever there is a condition, we can use if, and inside if we write the Boolean expression, and then the statements follow if the if condition is true. So if Boolean expression evaluates to true, then the statement is executed. If Boolean expression evaluates to false, then a statement is skipped. Now the Boolean expression must be enclosed in parentheses. This is a simple flowchart of the if statement. Like the decision box is having the Boolean expression, and if it is true, then the statements are executed, and if it is false, then other statements can be executed or something other can be done. If statement examples are like, if count is greater than 0, suppose there is a variable known as count. If its value is greater than 0, then average is equal to total divided by count. If age is greater than equal to 26, if has license equal to true, then system.out.println, whatever statement you are going to print, if these two conditions hold to be true. Then as you can see now, we have not used curly braces here, so simply this statement is going to be executed, not this one. Okay. Then days in Feb variable will be initialized by 28, and if this is a leap year, then this function will set days in Feb is equal to 29, and system.out.println year is a leap year. Okay. Like if a statement is, the statement is in the if statement can be any Java statement, a simple statement or a compound statement. Okay, a simple statement is any statement that is having a single statement, and compound statement can be having more than a single statement, or a little a block of a statement, okay, enclosed within the curly braces. With this example is shown here, like if zip code is equal to. Now the double equal to means that we cannot put a single equal to over here. This should be taken care of. We have to provide double equal to in order to compare values, because this is a relational operator and it is checking whether zip code is equal to 15213 or not. So in that case, if it is true, then city is set to Pittsburgh and state is set to PA. So a simple if statement, as we can see, is just having a Boolean expression. It is having some statements for true, or a single statement for true and some statement for false. But there are other variations of if, like the if else statement. The if else statement is used when we want to provide two alternatives. Like if we want to choose between two alternatives, we use the if else statement. If suppose we just want to check whether a variable is greater than 10 or not, in that case the statement, the if condition will be if, and within parentheses it will have a is greater than 10, and if that condition holds, then we will write the first set of a statement that true. We can put anything like system.out.println, yes, the variable a is greater than 10, and if it, and whatever we have to put, if the condition doesn't hold, it goes inside the else part, like else statement 2 or else system.out.println that a is not less than 10. Okay, this is if else version of the if statement. Now here you are presented with an if else flow chart. Now what is exactly doing is a boolean expression is computed. If it is true, then statement 1 is executing, and if it is false, then statement set 2 is executing, and then the normal the remaining functioning of the program can be performed. Now if else statement, some more examples are also given, like if temperature is less than or equal to 32, then forecast is snow. Okay, else forecast rain. If count is greater than 0, average is equal to total by count, else system.out.println no data to average. What is happening over here is that here we are having two different sets of if else statements. First is just checking whether the temperature is less than or equal to 32. If it is true, then the variable forecast is set to snow. Else, if it is not less than 32, if it is greater than 32, then the forecast is rain. Then the second set of if else statements are having a different concept altogether. They are these two set of if else are totally different from each other. They have no relation to each other. So if count, this is just checking if the count variable is greater than 0. If the count variable is greater than 0, then average is equal to total divided by count. Else, in that case, the system will print that no data to average. Now there are some common errors that people perform. We should have a look on that. That when you want to test if a value of a variable is in a range, like you cannot simply write if 0 is less than temperature is less than 100. This is totally, it is not allowed. And what you can do is you can write that if temperature, like if temperature is greater than 0 and temperature is less than 100. So what is we are doing? See, in the statement in which we have performed the we have faced the error is that we are providing two conditions to the same variable without separating it with any logical operator. And what we are doing in the correct case is that we separated the two conditions by a logical operator, like temperature is greater than 0 and temperature is less than 100. This is joined by a logical AND. So these two conditions, because as you can see over here, there are two conditions which are merged into one. This is not provided in Java. So in that case, you have to make them distinct in case of two different conditions, like temperature is greater than 0 and temperature is less than 100. This is the correct way of writing a Boolean expression. Now another error is when you want to test if the value of a variable is one of two alternates, like if choice is equal to M or L. Here again the same problem exists, like we are having a logical operator and we are having only one condition. This cannot be done. Okay, so what is done and what should be done is, if choice equals double equals means it is equals to M. This choice character variable holds capital M, and choice or choice equals L, then system.out.println you are correct. Now you can also provide multiple alternatives. Multiple alternatives means that you are not limited with performing only a single if condition or a single if with an else condition. That is also correct, but there are conditions in which we also use multiple alternatives. Now how multiple alternatives are performed? Suppose there is a question that determine if a number is positive, negative or 0. If and that number is held in a variable called value. So if value is less than 0, then system.out.println value is negative. If value equals to 0, then system.out.println value is 0. If value is greater than 0, then value is positive. Now this kind of an arrangement of the if blocks, as you can see, this is only using the if clause. It is not using the else clause. And the problem with this is this kind of arrangement of if is that the computer thinks any combination of the three statements can be executed. Like it has to check each and every if condition in order to get executed, and this will definitely use more of CPU resources and cycles. Okay, if we had to perform a simple evaluation of expression, suppose we just had to find out like if value is less than 0 or greater than 0, then that case you could have used this thing, like value is less than 0, then it will show value is negative, and in that case we also we used to we have else in that. But here what is happening is that there are three different conditions, and the computer system or the Java framework has to see, or the Java compiler has to see that these are three different statements that have to be checked individually. This is increasing the complexity of the algorithm or the problem. Then what else can be done is that if value is less than, what was the question? The question was that whether the number is positive, negative or 0. Okay, so this can also be done, like if value is less than 0, then you should say that value is negative. Then you go inside else, and in else you check that if value is equal to 0, then you will say value is 0. Else if value is greater than 0, then you will say value is positive. This again can be reduced. How? We can remove the useless curly braces which we are using. Okay, so what we can do is, if value is less than 0, no problem, value is negative. Else if, now you can remove this. Okay, so else if value is equal to 0, then value is 0. Else, now this if statement is also not needed, as you will see in the subsequent example, that if else if value is greater than 0, this else will be reached, it is understood that has to be greater than 0, this value. Okay, so here we can see the final version of it. Like if value is less than 0, it is negative, the value is negative. If it is 0, else if value is 0, then value is 0. Else if value is greater than 0, then value is positive. So what we were doing, how we were approaching this problem, what we did was, we first, like a novice programmer, we provided three different if conditions for a situation or for a problem in which a single if else ladder can do. Okay, so in this way you can reduce the various if clauses by if else clauses. Now programming style, as you can, this is just a revision of if and multi-line if else and multiple alternatives. Like if a single if statement is there, then we use if y is greater than 0, the color is equal to red. In multi-line if, what do we do? If zip code is equal to, it double equals a particular value, then city, and then state. Yes, in the if else statement, what we can do, if temperature is less than equal to 32, and then in the curly braces for this if subsequent if, we write forecast is equal to snow, and then in the else part we write forecast is equal to rain. Then multiple alternatives hold more than two values. Like if value is less than 0, then negative is equal to 0. Else, in else case, in else if value is 0, then value type is equal to 0. Else value type is equal to positive. So what we have learned in this video is that there are conditional constructs in Java which are used to perform some Boolean logic or Boolean expression. We ought to solve some Boolean expression, and which can be done by using the various if conditions, if clauses. Like this summarizes the whole lecture. Like you can use single line if statements whenever they are required, and then if you can also use multi-line if statement. In multi-line if statement, curly braces are introduced. You can also use if else statements for some complex calculations or some complex Boolean expressions. Then the multiple alternatives can also be used, like if value is less than you already used this example, like multiple alternatives means that it has to contain some else if blocks, and this if else if and else, this is also known as if else if ladder. Like as this is having if value is less than 0 and value type is equal to negative, else if value is equal to 0. Now else if can be used many a times. It is up to our suitability of the need. Okay. There is another conditional construct that is very often used in Java, which is known as a switch statement. A switch statement is somewhat similar to the if-else if block, but the difference is that you cannot provide a range of Boolean expressions, or the switch statement is useful when you want to check exact values. Like suppose you are building a calculator and then you want to check whether there is a plus, minus, or multiply, that is asterisk, or a divide sign. Then in that case there will be a character variable that can hold a value of plus, minus, multiply or divide, and you can provide the switch on that particular character variable, and for each and every possibility of that variable having some value, then you can, if it is having a plus, then you can do a particular case, then perform some statements. Then if it is a minus, then you can do some statements, and likewise for the multiplication and division. So all the programs that can be made by switch can be made by if else clause, but all the programs that can be made by the if else clause cannot be made in switch, because switch is limited in its usage. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this video, and this is all regarding the conditional flow in Java. Hello, my name is Dr. Gaurav Kant Shankadar. I work in the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science in School of Basic Sciences, Babu Banarsi Das University. Today I am going to take up my lecture in programming in Java and looping constructs. Now, what are these looping constructs? These looping constructs are composed of the for loop, the while loop, the do while loop. So we will learn these things in this video. Java iteration statements. What is an iteration? If somebody asks you to write your name 10 times, then you will write it once, twice, and then you will write it in total 10 times. That is one way. Another way is you go through an iteration kind of a program, and then write your name and iterate it 10 times. So this is obviously much easier as compared to writing the name 10 times. It is so this is how Java iteration statement works. If we want to do something quite a lot of many times, then we have to put that statement or whatever function or method or functionality inside some iteration, and we define how many iterations are needed. Then what happens is that thing which is enclosed inside the looping construct gets executed n number of times, if n is the number of iterations. So iteration statements are statements which appear in the source code only once, but it executes many times. Such kind of statements are called loops. Almost all the programming languages support looping instructions. Like you can consider any language, any programming language, C, C++, Java, Python, R, or C#, JavaScript, VBScript, Visual Basic. Each and every language has its own looping constructs, and more or less they are identical. So these kind of statements which iterate for a given number of times is known as a loop. Almost all the programming languages support looping instructions. Like, what is a sequence? A sequence is a procedural execution of something, of statements. Then there are selection. As you can see in the slide, a sequence is any number of statements that are executed one after the other. Then there are selection statements, as we have dealt with them in the previous tutorial. Selection statement composed of if else, if ladder, and switch statements. Now another very important thing that is remaining, that is we have not yet studied, is the iteration, which is the focus of this lecture today. So a programming language primarily consists of sequence, selection, and iterations, and whatever logic that has to be applied in a programming language or in a program has to do a lot with the selection and iteration statements. Like there can be huge lines of monolithic code that can be that people write, the programmers write, but the main logic is existent in the selection and the iteration statements. If you know how to apply the logic in selection and iteration statements, that I'm sure that you can make a very good, even a very difficult program, because once you are able to use the selection and iteration statements at your liberty, then things become very easier. Now, what are the basic elements of iterations? The basic elements of iterations are, first of all, initialization of a variable that is going to contains the number of times the loop is going to be executed. So first of all, you have to initialize it. Then there should be a condition that is known as a terminating condition of an iteration. This condition should specify that when you are going to leave out from a particular loop. Like in this example as shown in the slide, int counter is equal to 1 is the initialization statement. Then whatever you are writing inside the while statement, we are talking about a while loop over here. As you can see, we have provided the condition that counter should be less than equal to 10 in the condition section of the while loop. So first of all, we have initialized counter to 1, then we have provided a condition that counter should be less than equal to 10 in the condition segment of the while loop. Now whatever we are going to write inside the statements or the opening and the curly braces of the while loop are known as the statements that get executed when the conditions are true, or when the condition, if a single condition, then a condition is true. Like when counter is less than equal to 10, it is initialized with 1. Then this, and in this section inside in the block of the while loop, we are writing system.out.print counter. Now system.out.print, what will it do? It will simply print the value of the counter. So it will print 1. Then the counter will be incremented and it will become 2. So it will print all the numbers from 1 to 10, and then this condition will again be checked, like counter should then will become 10, then it will become 11. So it will be checked that whether the counter is less than equal to 10, this condition will be false. So the counter is actually 11, that's why this condition has been false. So this will go outside of the curly braces or the scope or the block of the while loop, and then it will print a line. Okay, it will just move to next line, because here we are using system.out.println, and this println will do nothing over here because we are not passing any argument to be printed, we are just skipping a line. Okay, so the first part of any iteration is the initialization, as it has been done over here, like counter is equal to 1. Another thing is the loop continuation condition, like what is the condition so that the loop can go on. Then inside the body of the loop, we provide the manipulation of the loop variable, like we are adding 1 to it, or we are incrementing it 1 by 1, this counter variable. That's why it is going to reach 10, and finally it will become 11 and go outside the loop. Okay. Now what are do while and while condition? What are the do while and while looping constructs? These two these two types of looping structures actually differ in at a single point, where we can, as is evident from this example, like when we consider the do while structure, then what we are doing is we are having the condition that is going to be checked after the statement or the body of the loop. Okay, first we will perform something and then we will check that whether we have met with the condition to go outside this loop. Then this is the condition with the do while structure. Now when we consider while structure, then in while, the body of the condition of the statement is checked, or the condition of the loop is checked prior to going inside the loop's body. Like it will be first be checked. Like suppose in this case, in do while, what I do is I just want to check whether a number is greater than 0 or less than 0. So what will happen is, suppose I initialize a number. This is the initialization phase. That is shown in oval shape. It is the initialization phase of a variable. Suppose I initialize a variable I is equal to -1. Okay, int I is equal to -1. Then what I will do is I just print that variable. So it will print -1, and then it will check that it is less than 0. So if it is less than 0, greater than 0, it hardly matters, because the condition to check the value of the variable has been kept outside the statement. So this do while loop will get at least executed once. Okay. Now what is the while structure? When we are dealing with the while type of structure in the looping constructs of the Java language, or in many other languages also, what we are doing is, this is the initialization phase shown by the oval shape. The I is equal to -1. Then it will check over here without entering inside the body of the loop. It will check that whether the variable has the value has a negative value. If it has a negative value, that will go out or do processing, whatever has to be done. But we are able to figure out that whether that number is a negative number, positive number, or it is a 0 without entering inside the block of while. So this is the difference between do while and while structure. That in while structure, the condition is checked first and then the statements are executed. Or if the condition, suppose, is falling outside the range of this test, then it will not at all go inside the block. And as far as do while structure is concerned, then what will happen is, first of all, the statements will be executed, then it will go outside by checking whether the condition has been met or not. So condition is kept outside the block. Okay. Now here we are able to figure out that how is a while loop executing. Okay. Now this is the start of the state, and what it is doing is that loop continuation condition. This is the condition. Okay, if it is true, then a statement is executed. This is while loop. It is very much identical to this, as you can see. And then if the condition is true, then the statements are of the loop body is executed. And if it is false, then what is happening? Whatever else we want to do on the contrary. Okay. This is the example, like count is equal to 0 and is count is less than 100. This is true. System.out.println welcome to Java, and then count will be executed. Incremented, sorry. Then this will do 100 times, and when the count will become count will never become So in this example, we are going to see that a simple example of the while loop execution. Here what we have done is we have taken count to be equal to 0, and this count is checked to be less than 100. Then if the condition holds true, then that welcome to Java will be printed, and the count variable will be incremented by 1. So initially the count is 0. So this will condition will be true. So welcome to Java will be printed, and then count will be count variable will be incremented, and if it is incremented, then it will go. It will have a new value of 1, and then again this condition will be true, and welcome to Java will be printed. And this will be done 100 times. Okay, and then when the count variable exceeds the value of 100, then this condition becomes false, and so the false part of that loop will be executed, or it will go outside the loop in fact, and whatever statement will follow the while loop will then be executed. Now this program section reads a series of integers and computes their average. As you can see in this example what it is doing, it is having three variables over here. Sum is initialized to 0, then there is a num variable, and count is also initialized to 0. Then there is a variable of double data type known as AVG. Then we have what we have done is we have printed on the screen the enter an integer 0 to quit. Okay, so that number will be get by the screen by using the .next int function. This function is new to you, I know, but what's a very easy function to understand. Like reader.next int means you are going to extract from the screen or from the console any new integer value, and that value will be placed inside the num variable or assigned to num variable. Then when num is not equal to 0, because if we want to exit this loop, we will enter the value 0 to the num variable. Then count will be incremented. Sum is what is happening over here. Count is taking into account all the number of hits that we are doing, and then sum plus equals to num is the sum variable is keeping the summation of all the values entered. Okay, then when 0 is entered by the user, then what happens is this while loop gets exit, and then the variable, the AVJ variable becomes sum divided by count. It will keep the average, and finally the average will be printed. So here we have seen a very good example for displaying the usage of the while loop. So one thing should be very clear, that you can use any loop for interchangeably, like anything that can be done from by the usage of one loop can be done by the other, but there are certain conditions that should be kept in mind while applying the various types of looping constructs. Okay. Now what is this example doing? This program reads an integer, okay, like a scanner. What is a scanner? A scanner is a class that is used to take user input in Java. When we'll deal about the input and output in Java, then we'll definitely consider this example and go and delve into it. So what is the example doing? Like it is displaying a message that enter a positive number, and then number is entered in the num. Okay, then when if num is greater than 0, then res variable is having the summation of the last digit of this number. Like if somebody is entering 4126, then this res will contain 6, and then it will eventually take each and every digit one by one, and then it will perform the summation of the various digits. So finally what it will print? It will print the sum of all the digits entered by the user and as a single number. Now what are infinite loops? The examples that we have considered so far are finite loops. Like this while is having a condition that num is greater than 0. Then whenever num becomes equal to 0 or less than 0, in fact equal to 0, then this condition, this terminating condition will be met, and the loop will stop functioning. Okay. In the example over here also, we took the example like num is not equal to 0. So this is also a terminating condition. But suppose if there is a condition that never gets ended, so if it never gets ended, then what will you do? Then the things will be not in your control. It will be printing or executing the statements whatever are written inside the while or the for infinite loop, and it will do it again and again without any interruption or without any stopping. Okay, so in fact there has to be some condition that puts an end to the loop. But in this example, as you can see in the slide, like int count is equal to 1, while count is not equal to 50. Count plus equals to 2. So we have initialized the count variable by 1, and we are checking that if it does not become 50, and we are incrementing by 2. That means the number the value held by a count variable will be first 1, then it will be 3, then it will be 5, or we can say in a simple language it will contain all the odd numbers. Ultimately it will reach a state when the value of the count variable becomes 49, and after that it will become directly 51, but skipping the 50th value. So in that case it will exceed this value, and the condition is not exactly what should be to stop this kind of loop. So it will become an infinite loop and will go on and on and on. Okay. Now we must look at the what is the structure of a for loop. Okay. Now for loop contains mainly three sections. You can change or modify these things, but in majority of the cases the structure or the syntax of the for loop contains three different kind of sections. They are separated by semicolons. The first section is the initialization section, in which a variable or more than one variable are initialized. That is, they contain the initial values that they have to keep in order for the loop to function. Like in the initialization section, I can write for I is equal to 1, comma, j is equal to 2, or I is equal to 0, j is equal to 0, k is equal to 1. So this kind of initialization can be done in the first section of the for syntax. Now after semicolon, or after providing the initialization section, we have the conditional section. This conditional section is nothing but just to provide the necessary terminating condition so as the loop can stop. Like I is less than equal to 50, or j is less than 10. Now again, in the conditional section you can provide more than one condition. One condition for I, or maybe these conditions can be any conditions involving I or j or anything, but the condition that will be met first will be considered. Okay. Now after semicolon, there is the third part known as the iteration. Here you provide the increment to the variable that is used as a loop counter, or the variables which are initialized in the initialization phase. They are incremented or decremented in the iteration section. Okay, so these are the three sections of the for loop. Now things get very much easier if we provide all these things at the same place, because now we don't have any we don't have to provide this again in the for loop, because these things are provided at once over there, so they are stable. And then in the curly braces we write the body of the for loop. Okay, so and what is the flow of information, or the control? In fact, what is the flow of control? First of all, it will check the initialization. The loop will enter in the initialization phase. It will initialize the variables. Then it will check whether the variable has met the necessary terminating condition, and then it will, if the condition is false, if the condition is false, that it is allowed to enter the for loop, then it will enter the for loop. It will execute the for loop body. Then after coming across the closing curly brace of the for loop, what it will do is it will do the incrementing or the decrementing part of the for loop, and then it will again check for the condition that whether that is met or not, and if it is not met, then it will again go inside the block of the for, or if the condition is met, then it will go outside and it will leave the for loop. Okay, as this is quite evident in this example, that for loop in the order of execution. The three things that I have told you as shown in this slide, like initialization, condition, and iteration, are shown over here. First of all, initialization is done, then the condition is checked, and then the iteration or the incrementing or decrementing part of the loop begins. Then it enters the for loop body if the condition is true, and if false, then it gets exited. Now, how does these things function in a do while loop statement? Okay, as I told you that you can use any loop, and but the thing is you must understand that when to use which kind of a loop. If there are many variables involved, then you should use a while or a do while loop, and if there are very less variables involved, then you can use for loop, but it's all together on the taste of the programmer, what he thinks to be good at a particular situation. Okay, now what is this do while loop statement and how can it be used is, like, first of all you have to write do, then you have to perform the write all the statements that you want to perform, then by you will close the curly braces and you will write the while statement, and this while statement will end up in providing an expression inside the parenthesis. Okay, like, and it is similar to the while loop which we have discussed previously, that except the condition is evaluated after the loop body. In do while loop the condition is evaluated after the loop body, but as far as the while loop is concerned, the condition is evaluated at the beginning before entering the loop. This is the main difference. And do while loop execution is somewhat different from while, as I told you, and you can figure it out in the slide. Like, this is a state, and then there is what is happening is the do while loop is started, the statements are executed, the condition is then checked, like loop continuation condition. If it is false, then it will definitely exit the do while loop, and if it is true, then this will go again and again. So these examples that we have considered so far are as this example, or better still this example. This is a simple and a single while loop or a for loop that we have used, but there can be situations where you have to provide nested loops in order for your program to get executed, or if you want to do something like you want to display some pattern, or if you are using more than one dimensional array, like 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional arrays, then you use nested loops. There are quite a lot of conditions in which you can use nested loops. Like in the nested loop, suppose you are given a series like 1 plus x to the power 1 divided by 1 factorial plus x square divided by 2 factorial and so forth up till n. Then this kind of thing can only be done by a nested loop, because you are what you are doing is you are performing x square x cube. This is in itself is iterative, and this thing is being done n times, so it is inside another iteration. So this kind of problem can be solved by nested loops. For loops, while loops and do while loops all can be nested. This is a very simple example as to how can you use nested loops. This pattern has to be printed, and how can it be printed? There can be many patterns that can be printed, but this is the most elementary one. So what can you do? We can approach to this problem like, as there are total 5 rows here, and in the first row there is a single asterisk that has to be printed. In the second row there are 2, in the third row there are 3, in the fourth 4, and in the fifth row there are 5 asterisks. So we have to find out some commonality or rational or some logic as to how to print these patterns by using loops. Okay, so what will we do is we will first, how many rows we have? We have 5 rows. Okay, so we will run the first loop starting with 1 and reaching up to the maximum number of rows in that pattern. So I have taken the variable r, that is for row. So r is equal to 1 up till r is less than equal to 5 and r plus plus. Then this outer loop will contain an inner loop which will count for the columns. Like column is represented by c, and how many times? Like if there is a first, as you can see and you can figure out, if this is the first row, then we have to print the asterisk once. If there are two rows, if there's a second row, then we have to print two times. That is, we have to print the number of the number of asterisks equal to the number of row in which we have to print. So what we have done is, we have run the loop of c is equal to 1 to c is less than equal to r. That is, if r is 1, then this will be run once and one asterisk will be printed, and then this loop will exit and a new line will be inserted, and then the value of r will become 2. So c will run 1 to 2. That is, c, this internal loop will run 2 times, and we are having the second row. So what we were wanting to do, we have achieved it, and this will then print the whole pattern without any problem. Okay, so this is a very simple example, and there can be many types of patterns that can be used and that can be dealt by nested loops, and they are also very good to increase your level of programmability or your expertise in programming, because then you are able to manipulate how you are going to take the first loop, then how are you going to take the nested loop, or if it is involving more than 2 nested loops, then how just in this example you have taken it to be a number of rows first and the number of columns second. So in this way your idea gets cleared and things become simple. Now, what are jump statements? As we have seen in this example, that the whole for loops are getting executed. This internal loop is also getting executed the number of times it is scheduled, and the outer loop is also getting executed here 5 times. Okay, so we haven't stopped or we haven't jumped out of a particular loop. So we will discuss this thing. Jump statements are basically of 2 types in Java. First is break and the other is continue. If suppose you want to break when c is equal to 3, suppose in your loop is getting executed from 1 to 10, but if c is equal to 3, then you want to leave that loop out, then what will you do? Then you will place the break statement over there, and if you then what will happen is 1, 2, 3 will get printed, and or 3 might not get printed, whatever your programming has been. So the break statement enables us to get exited outside the loop for whatever value you want to exit. Like suppose I want to there was a need that I wanted to print from 1 to 10, but by a user supplied value between 1 to 10, I want to print all the values before it and exit it after that. So if the user enters suppose 5, then I will do what? I will make the loop, and inside the loop I will check if the value entered by the user to break is 6, then or 5, then I equate it and I'll write the statement break, then only 1, 2, 3, 4 will be printed, and in case of 5 it will get exited. So this is a very basic use of break. And what is continue? Continue is the statement that lets you run your loop by leaving the current row, leaving the current iteration and restart and continuing with the next iteration. Okay, like when break is encountered, the loop is exited regardless of whether the condition is still true. The break statement tells Java to exit a code block, that is a loop body defined by opening and closing braces. Okay, and the program then continues to run from the first line after the while for do while bodies loop. If called within a nested loop, breaks out of the inner loop only. This one thing is for sure, that suppose you are having a level of 2 of nested loops, like there's an outer loop and then there's an inner loop. Whenever break is encountered in the inner loop, then it will exit out of the inner loop itself, not the outer loop. Okay. Then when what is about the same thing also goes for continue. Like when continue is encountered, the rest of the loop is ignored. Okay, the rest of the loop is ignored and will start by the next iteration of the outer loop. Okay. Here things will become quite simple by seeing it pictorially. Like as you can see here, that there is a loop expression and it is encountering a break statement and it is coming outside of the loop. This could have been a nested loop also. Okay, like this is loop 1, expression 1. This is the outer loop and loop 2 is the inner loop, and we are encountering a break statement inside the inner loop. Then whenever this statement is encountered, then what happens is this break statement makes the loop gets ended, and it makes the next level of control to the next statement of the first loop. That is, this break statement will break out of the inner loop. Okay. And continuous statement will function in like, suppose there is a loop, and whenever the continuous statement is encountered, then what will happen, it will ignore executing rest of the loop's body in this iteration. That suppose at I is equal to 5 you get continue, then I is equal to 5, the body of the I is equal to 5 will not be executed, but it will restart at the 6, at the value becoming 6. Okay. These are the examples of break and continue. Like for int I is equal to 1, I is less than equal to 10i plus plus. This is the same examples I was talking about. If I is equal to 5, then break. Okay. Then it is going 1 to 10, but it is encountering 5 and is getting broken. Then what will happen is it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, but as soon as 5 is encountered, it will break. Then this will go outside this inner for loop or for loop. Okay. And this is how it's done. And as compared to the continuous statement, then when it is here also it is going from 1 to 10, but at I is equal to 5 we are it is encountering the continuous statement. And what we will do, it will not print this statement. At I is equal to 5, it will not print the statement that is continuing after the continue. Okay, so what it will do is it will not print 5, and it will restart by the next iteration of this loop, and 1, 2, 3, 4 is already getting printed. Then at I is equal to 5, what is happening is it is getting continued. So then 5 will not be printed because the statement after this continue in that iteration will not be executed. So what will happen is it will again become 6. It will become 6 then because here it will be I plus plus. I is 5, then it will become 6. 6 is less than equal to 10, then here it will be what will be doing, it will be just printing itself. So 1, 2, 3, 5 will be skipped because of continue, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will be printed. Okay. Now sometimes what happens is we do not follow the exact syntax, and we introduce some amount of error inside it. See the difference. As you can see, this first let me discuss about the code that is given below. That int I is equal to 2, do system.out println I is I plus plus, and then while statement. This is a simple do while statement. What it is doing is, it is first of all initializing the variable I to 0, and then what it is doing, it is printing it, and then it is incrementing I. So I is 0 and 0 get printed, and then I becomes 1. Okay, so and then I will be checked that whether I is less than 10. I is 1, it is definitely less than 10, so no problem. It will again do the same thing. It will print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9, yes, it will print 9, then it will become 10 after this statement. It will check whether it is less than 10. No, it's not less than 10. So 0 to 9 will be printed. One thing here is that whenever you end the while statement in do while, then you always put a semicolon over here. Okay, but people do mistake regarding putting the semicolon in after the end of the while loop also. This is not correct, because what it will do, it will first of all introduce error, and then this will become a statement, not a loop then. Okay, so here it is an error, because if you are applying do while, then the closing parenthesis is appended by a semicolon. When in case of while, you don't end this statement, because this block is getting started, not getting ended. So you please do one thing, that you do not get confused with the semicolon, because here if you are putting a semicolon, because it's the end of the statement, but here it is just the beginning of the block, so it cannot be put over there. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this lecture, and thank you.